Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. And in the wake of the Subliners' defeat last night to the Toronto Ultra with a substitute in their team, Crimsix, after a very poor individual performance, was getting absolutely roasted all across the board. 10 was going on him, Scrappy was going on him no less. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below as to what this team's chances are of actually making it to the World Championship this season. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. There was some sort of E-Zone tournament going on yesterday. Cellium and the boys ended up taking down the crown of this one with Machilla no less on the right-hand side. This just wanted to mention a few interesting pieces of statistic actually, just kind of talking about the control maps, because we see rather a lot. We see Gavutu, we see Tuscan. Sometimes Tuscan you can win an offense. Gavutu it does happen, but it is very rare. Like look at these numbers, how tragic that is. Gavutu a 20% or 22% offensive win rate, Tuscan 27%, and I thought honestly that as the season progressed, as kind of like they moved from kills to ticks, right? So finally it actually makes sense to go for the caps rather than just camping your spawn and just play for kills as it used to be. I thought maybe we'd actually see a slight increase in the percentages, but it's just the maps are so biased in terms of defense that it makes it so difficult. Berlin, though, a very different story. I believe this was 50% when this tweet was done. I believe it now might be about 49% or something in favor of offense or defense or whatever it is, but pretty much split down the middle, which I really like about this map because it's rather, you can get spawn trapped, especially actually the defense is more likely to get spawn trapped than the offense is, which I think is always kind of a good sign in a sense, that if offense gets the one wave of kills they need, they can win the round pretty comprehensively, right? So I do like that because you never feel like it's chalked on Berlin, whereas other maps you do, even though the map might not be quite as good to watch as some of the other ones we've had throughout Call of Duty history. This was of course a big deal in yesterday's game as well. We see this an awful lot actually, where players will just leave before the actual, the final scoreboard pops up and players have dipped from it. Now I think sometimes this does happen where players get annoyed and they alt F4 or they just leave the game or something like that, which I find kind of surprising anyway. But apparently there's some serious issues with the game just crashing. I haven't really experienced this myself because like how many times have I turned on Vanguard in the last few months? The number is practically zero, but as Paulek says here in the replies, for the last time, we need the game fixed. My game crashes every other map. So he reckons that like for some reason, after the game ends, the game just crashes for him, and therefore he doesn't appear on the kind of scoreboard at the end of it, which is tough because I think it's really difficult for them to get the damage stats and stuff like this as a result, as opposed to kind of bringing out that scoreboard at the ends, which is generally rather good. So interesting situation, but of course Paulek and the Subliners guys apparently having some issues yesterday with the PC crashing or whatever the case might be, because as Paulek says, that one hurt. GG's Ultra lost 3-2. Definitely a map that they really can't afford to lose on that map 5 there. They do well enough. They kind of helped Crimsix over the line in the game 3. The game 4 wasn't pretty for Crimsix either, to be honest, and then they still lose the game 5 regardless despite a 3-0 lead. There was some talk about lobby skipping and some issues with the PCs as well, as Paulek says. PC crashed again. We skipped like 3 rounds and it just froze. So he reckoned that kind of the 3 rounds towards the end of the game, there was some skipping going on and there was something odd with the kind of game in the final map here. And of course a very crucial map as the season progresses. Crimsix actually was 3-7 right here, but I'm pretty sure we started this map 3-1, so definitely didn't have the greatest last few rounds. Scrappy, of course, on the other side, he steps in for Ultra. That's the thing for New York, really, from my perspective, right, is it's like, wow, you can't really afford to lose a series like this against a team with a sub, especially because it was so important for you, especially because you lost 2 search and destroys in the series. You would think, really, that with Scrappy coming in, a sub in that team, last-minute change, effectively, that Subliners, at least they should have prepared something in their search and destroy to be able to take down a team with a substitute in 2 of them, because they only need one of those search and destroy victories to win the series. And of course, it would have been massive for them. As Scrappy gets them over the line, the game 4 from Scrappy especially was absolutely phenomenal. Of course, Inside, I didn't really talk about him too much yesterday, but he's gone down with food poisoning, it seems, the last few days, so that's unfortunate for him, most certainly. A very difficult time. So hopefully he recovers quickly. Definitely, not such a concerning situation as maybe Illy is, but still, Scrappy's probably going to be back to the bench soon. But still, I did feel like in certain situations, Scrappy was probably a more powerful force than Insight would be, especially in some of the respawns, right? Even though Insight's clutches are still very highly renowned. So there's some questions there as to what Ultra decide to do going forwards, but they've been on the up regardless, really, of who they've had in their team. But I wonder whether Scrappy can actually be a very valuable asset to many other teams in the league. I'm pretty sure next season, if he's still on their bench for the Ultra guys, I'm sure they're going to get some offers coming through the door, if not for the rest of this season, to be honest, for, some other teams that might be looking to make some sort of changes. I did promise you guys that I'd show the full series stats here, so I'll just do it now. Hydra again at 1.21, not quite the most damage on the team. That actually goes to Kismet and Paulek, who had an awful lot of kills. Scrappy, though, 1.26, 13,000 damage, but Crimsix, despite doing some decent damage numbers, all things considered, although nowhere near great compared to the rest of the lobby, he had a 0.71, 81 kills, 114 deaths. In fairness, most of this negative 33 was caused by that one particular map in the control, where they did, in fairness, go on to win. But really, his last few maps were just nowhere near the caliber that Crimsix usually performs at. Like, he was looking pretty good map 1, and for some reason, he just got probably put in the blender. I do think sometimes watching Crimsix play that when he's having a bad time, it can kind of spiral out of control. Sometimes he gets frustrated and he does kind of stupid things on the map. So like, you know, that's obviously unfortunate from his side. And if he plays a bit better map 4, maybe they win that one. But in fairness, Scrappy took over that game at like 38-26. That was probably going to be a hard task to win anyway. But and then the final map, of course, he was 3-1 early on, then lost, well, 6 gunfights, I suppose, in a row to close out the game. So that was a really tough series loss for them, as we shall see here in a second. And as Crim says, worst series of my life. So he wasn't happy about it at all. And certainly the roasters were coming in from all directions. Like Subliners and Crimsix just won an event not too long ago. $100,000 in the bank between them, but they're going to have to improve significantly in their search and destroys if they want to get to champs, because they are probably the team right now in the most precarious position in the league that actually still has a chance to make it, because Paris Legion, we know what's going on there. But yeah, 240 bombs out of New York. Hydra has 39, Kismet has 40, and then Crimsix with 42 deaths. Don't see that every day. Probably the worst, you know, individual scoreline that we have really ever seen for a victory. So I'll just share a couple of clips here from the flank. Tempest kind of basically saying, look, Crimsix is absolutely horrible. One of the worst ever performances that you're going to see for a victory at the very least. Scrappy saying that this guy is absolutely terrible, especially in search and destroy. So yeah, the roasts were kind of coming in from all directions. But Parasite also says, look, their search and destroy, the sublaners, they need to improve significantly if they want to make a run, because right now they're getting exposed in that mode.
To eventually win the series, for those of you guys in chat, but yeah, I think their S&D is just on a better level than New York. I think that's always been their weak game mode. We saw them at the Pro-Am, you know, going 6-5 a lot, and as you know, as teams start to play them more and get used to it, those 6-5s are gonna just get like harder and harder to win, or they're just gonna get worse at search and destroy. They need to drastically improve in this game mode if they want to keep their you know, they want to keep their upward trend.
Does make sense though.
And I got one more thing before I fade away. Like, yo, Porter had like this got to be the hardest cost you've seen in years. Like 10 and 30. Like
they won the map. They won the map though. It wasn't a cost.
Okay, all right.
Damn,
yeah, he
son.
did get absolutely.
You're right. They did win the map. I forgot. They did.
But
win
I mean,
the map.
like, but we saw Classic go 0-11 for a 6-5 win. So we've seen crazier. Yeah.
This is close. That's on this level. Like, this
for
they're
sure.
on the same level. Like,
I mean, he literally lost the round by himself.
You can see Porter, he's doing really good stuff here in his Tuscan control. Currently sitting at 11 and 30. Make that 11 and 31. Porter was just not having a good last couple maps, man. He was really struggling.
Destroy being so easy, and how even at the Pro-Am challengers teams were taking search and destroys off of these pro teams. Do you kind of share that same sentiment with search and destroy? A lot easier for you heading into this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been playing S&D since, I don't know, I've been 12, and Crim's like, he's ass. He's ass in S&D.
It's not right.
He stood no chance, and yeah, S&D's pretty easy. I'll give you that.
That's not right at all.
Hey, yo, I'll give you $1 for your fine. But yo, check this out. I was waiting for this Scrappy to come out, man. So
even Marky B and the Toronto guys kind of putting the dagger in one way to celebrate today's win with a porterhouse steak. Well, it looks absolutely beautiful. But you know, of course, they were having a good time down at the club. And so, well, we're living, he says, guys win a league match and start living like Drake says closer in the play. I thought that was kind of funny, especially against a team where their search and destroy might not be all that good, right? But that's the thing. Subliners right now, lately at least, they've been getting carried through by their search and destroys. I would say it was a surprise that they managed to win the Pro-Am Classic without winning a Game 5. Usually if you want to win a tournament, you're going to have to win a Game 5 at some point or another. They didn't even need to. They won all their series in either 3 or 4 maps at the Pro-Am Classic, which was very impressive, of course. But still, could they do it in 5? That was the question that I thought was going to be answered in yesterday's series. Exactly, it was. And well, they were on the receiving ends of a battering, actually, in that Game 5, at least on those final 6 rounds. And Scrappy, honestly, was most certainly a big part of it. So Toronto are definitely very good in their search and destroy. That's obviously true. But still, with the substitutes in their team, I thought the Subliners should have at least have won one of them, and not losing it and not winning a single one really puts their season into question, right? Because it was a big question early on this year, like, and it has been in previous years. Optic, FaZe, sometimes they go through droughts where their search and destroy is looking pretty poor, and that obviously, often causes them to lose a lot of series in Game 5. And Subliners right now, they're sitting here at 11th, right? This is the season standings. Like, of course, all can change if Subliners go into the major, and they probably will still make the winners bracket of the major. They have a decent chance to make a run, and I still feel like New York might be a top 3, top 4 team in the game, something in that ballpark. They will be if their search and destroy is better, but they can't afford to lose series in this manner, because that was a massive one for them yesterday. Their respawn is top 3 in the game, I think, to be honest, after Optic and FaZe. But outside of that, their search and destroy, it was questionable at the Pro-Am Classic itself, and since then it's proven to have gone downhill further, and it's not like Crimsix is helping all that much. And I think Parasite made a good point, really, the fact that, okay, other teams are going to look into what you do, like, it's easiest, really, when your team is first formed, to look good in that mode, and then you've really got to work hard on it after that, right? So that's the thing. If they don't improve that, they're occasionally going to be losing respawn to decent teams, and they've got to make sure they can clutch them in 5, because every single 10 points on this board matters an incredibly important amount, especially because they could have been tied with Toronto on 70. Now they're still 20 points behind, even making up any ground at all, even though in fairness, 8th place is still only 80 points. So they're not miles away by any means, but they only play one series next week. That's against Optic. If they lose that one, they could well be, 30 points behind qualification, and therefore that means they're going to have a couple of massive majors. Major 3 is incredibly important for them, as is Major 4. I'm sure this is going to come down to the wire in terms of who qualifies. Subliners on the cusp of not doing so. Now, of course, this stage, they had probably one of the hardest ones you're going to find. They played some very difficult teams. Of course, their next match is against Optic as well. Doesn't get too much easier for them. But this is their schedule here for Major 4. So I just wanted to look at this, right, to show that Subliners, it's definitely easier than this one, but it's not a walk in the park necessarily, especially because they probably will need a massive Major 4 if they actually want to make champs, because only the top 8 teams make it, which, you can either question or not, but I think it's a good thing, actually, because it creates these incredibly interesting storylines for the rest of the year. They play Florida, they play Los Angeles Guerrillas in week 1. This is, of course, way away on June the 24th, but are still definitely worthy of note. On the next week, they then play the Seattle Surge next and Optic, right? So they play Surge, Florida, Los Angeles Guerrillas, Optic. Of course, you don't know how good these teams are going to be at the time, and their final game is against Los Angeles Thieves. So, it's far from easy, actually, the Subliners again. I think this schedule is certainly easier, but even Florida, Seattle Surge, those are teams that can beat you on their day, without a shadow of a doubt. So they are going to have to seriously focus up. I thought this is funny as well, because Donny Temp's been going on a bit of a rampage as well lately. As Slash is there, GG's power is not clean. A win is a win. Our respawn needs work. Period. Temp with a few words here with the replies. I'll challenge you on Champ's main stage any amount, especially in a real man's game. A lot of this garbage nowadays, but you did have me at that COD 4 local. Your strike demo game was crazy, so, some kind of respect and fun stuff between these couple of guys. But yeah, that's the thing, right, as Slasher says, none of this garbage that we play nowadays, right, not happy at all with the state of Vanguard, and who can blame him, right? But, going back a good few years to a Black Ops 3 and Advanced Warfare, something like that would be a good time. I'm sure the viewership would just be way better. If we were just starting to play Black Ops 3 again, let's say the rest of this season was just played on Black Ops 3, the CDL would definitely start blowing up again, I'm sure of it, but, we are stuck with what we are stuck with. This also from David Picasso, I did another phenomenal, I just have to, show this, because it's just so good. It defies belief at times. Of Factman Chronicles, here he is, got Batman or Fatman and Robin here. This is Hydra saying McDonald's the wrong way. He takes him out, and I thought this final one is good. Hydra is knocked out, now I have to carry your ass home. This must be how it feels to get carried, which has kind of been what's happening lately, the other way around, to be honest. Just a couple of things to mention here on the Breaking Point side, just bought this a few days ago. If you guys had to choose, because I know we kind of did this for most of the Call of Duty games, didn't get round to Vanguard, but I suppose it's about time we have to choose 2 maps from Vanguard to actually take forwards. Look, I don't know. I think I'll take Tuscan for 1, and I generally don't know what the second one would be. Probably Tuscan and Berlin if we really had to choose 2, but I'd prefer just to choose 1 and call it a day, or maybe just none at all, to be honest. Tuscan isn't even great, apart from you do get the occasional great hardpoint on that map. And just to mention this as well, because I've been saving up a few of these for quite some time. This is one from Trident. Thought it'd be a good time to mention it right now. The most events ever played over a 1.20 KD. Scumbus the most, formal Octane actually at 20. Slash is up here as well. Of course, you're going to expect a lot of kind of main assault rifles in this kind of ballpark, and Dashy's probably going to get a fair few more over his crib. But quite remarkable actually that Scum and Formal, they're top 1, top 2. Octane as well with 20. I'm guessing this includes some of the homestands in Modern Warfare. It also must be said it can be difficult to find some of the stats for events back in the days. He says Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 3, pretty much everything in Black Ops 2 apart from champs not included, so these numbers might look somewhat different, but I thought it was cool to look at regardless. Very much enjoyed your thoughts and all this in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Told you YouTube God, this is a good video, and I was like you should see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.